Hi, in this video I'm going to share with you something known as the waste mark mistakes. I often read in all the pages, the Facebook pages where parents ask question like how can I help my child to improve their marks? How do I get a better grades and so on? For me, I find that it is important to understand what is the weakness of your child, and I'm going to share my experience about waste marks mistakes. Okay, so as a parent, I've been through the same journey as you. We experience roller coaster results of our kids. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, and you don't know why it just dropped like that. Okay, um, we also know that somehow my child know how to do all the assessment paper, the tuition work, the school work, but cannot perform well in the exam. We also have situation where we say, oh, my child had did many years of past year paper, but how come there's no improvement? Or my child always makes careless mistakes. So, is there anything that we can do to help our child? Um, or is there anything that we can do to avoid losing variable marks? The answer is yes, you can. Okay. First thing, we need to identify between knowledge gap and waste mark mistakes. Okay, when I say knowledge gap, it simply means that the child do not know how to do a certain question. Okay, so for example, if the teacher has not teach them how to add two fractions together, and the question have fraction, definitely your child will know be able to solve it, and this is a knowledge gap. Okay, or when the question pop out and it shows some sorts of remainder numbers and so on, and your child can't even start to draw the model, this is knowledge gap. Okay, knowledge gap, the solution to knowledge gap is you teach them the knowledge. Okay, for example, how to solve this type of question. Okay, waste marks mistake is very different. Waste mark mistake is a habit. So in a habit, you cannot teach, but you need to be correct. So you need to correct their bad habits. So for the approach taken for waste mark mistakes is very different from knowledge gap. Okay, for waste mark mistake, if you don't correct it, even you let your child do 10 sets or 100 sets of past year paper, it's useless because they will keep making the same mistakes. So what is waste marks mistake? So waste mark mistakes is actually um, it's a code that I use between myself and my child when I'm coaching them for mathematics. Okay, the reason is that I don't want to use the word stupid mistake or careless mistakes, because the moment you use the word stupid, not only you hurt their egos, it create negative feelings, and worst thing is spoil the father and child relationship. And put it frankly, no one wants to be known as stupid. If somebody call you stupid, you will also be not happy. Okay. Then the next thing I also learned is that if I keep telling my child, why you make such careless mistake, I'm actually not passing any useful information to them, because the question is, what is careful? If it's not, if you make careless mistake, then what is careful? It's just simply same as when you learn driving, you are not driving properly, and the driving instructor tell you drive properly, drive properly. But what is the meaning of drive properly? So the child need to understand where is their mistake and how to correct it. Okay. And waste mark mistakes, if I use the word waste marks mistake, to them they see the impact. Why? Because their precious marks are being wasted due to their mistakes. And to them is that, child has this mentality that they like to play games, and games is about getting more points. So it's something that they want to score, and by correcting all the waste marks mistake, they can get better points. So how to spot waste marks mistakes? I would say it's not easy. For me, it's easier because I'm the one that is coaching and supervising my own child for all their work. So after every assessment paper that they did, I'm the one actually who do the marking. So I will look out for patterns of mistakes in my child's work. Okay, then once I found the pattern, I will help them to identify their waste mark mistake and remind them to avoid it. So you see the word here, I actually remind them to avoid it because that's the only solution to for waste mark mistake. Okay, then also as you get the assessment, don't try to list down one whole list and and trying to tell them you must correct all these 10 mistakes and avoid them altogether. It's very difficult. Okay, so you correct them, as you journey with your child. Then it's always like that. As you corrected one, you will notice another one that is pop out. Okay, but very soon you will realize that as the previous one has been corrected, the number of correct answer that they get or the marks that they get will be better and better as time progress. Okay, so we can actually help our child to do better, and if you take care of all these so-called waste mark mistake, you may even move up one grades. So if you go and look at the PSLE scoring versus the AL, you realize that the gaps between AL1, AL2, AL3, AL4 are just 5 marks in between. And let's say your child is, let's say, 74, and by correcting one waste mark mistake, you can hit 75, and you're talking about one grades, one AL difference. Okay, so even one little marks actually helps. Okay, so these are some of the examples. Some of them I created facetiously because my child now are in secondary school and I very throw away all assessment paper. But I thought it is useful to share with them. Share with you. Okay, so the first thing is handwriting. So if you look at if your child has a handwriting like this, a typical one is this 83 or 88? Is this 36 or 30 or 38? You know, um, if you look properly, you can say 91 minus 8, oh, definitely is 83. Okay, but bear in mind during exam, you are under stress, your child is under stress and is very panic, and everything is about timing. So you only take a glance and you get the number and you continue with it. And that results in transferring or working to the solution wrongly. So for example, it's supposed to be 83 and you're supposed to find the area rectangle. You're supposed to take the answer multiply by 10. But somehow in a rush you see as 88 and you just take 88 multiplied by 10, it is 0. As a result, your answer is totally wrong. Simply not because you don't know how to do it, but simply because the handwriting like this resulted you to create a mistake. Simply from the number here, is it a 4? Is it a 9? Nobody knows. But actually, for this, because I have the solution on top, I know that it's actually a 4. But remember, in the exam, they are working under pressure, and simple mistake can be made by saying that x is equal to 9 as the answer and submit. And that's where you lose all the marks. Next, this is a very interesting observation which it took me quite a while to notice it. My child was able to solve very complex question, but somehow somewhere he always add the number wrongly or divide the number wrongly. And when I ask them to do the correction, they are able to do it. But then when I check with them, why did you do it wrongly? They say they don't know. But it's only after a while I realized actually what was happening. In the school, they are taught that when you do a question, you draw a line, and when you draw a line, you do your working on the right of the line, or this on the line, okay, the right part. Somehow, the first thing the kid did was take a ruler and draw a line. And when they draw a line, they start to do the working. Okay, if the question get more complex, there's more workings that needs to be done. They tend to squeeze all the numbers together, and that's where the mistakes are made. So if you try to do multiplication, you see all these numbers are all crammed together, and because there's not enough space, they tend to squeeze the number as smaller and smaller and smaller. And that's where the child make mistakes. And the worst thing was actually doing long division. You know, when you do long division, if you start your long division here, long division, the only way is that it will keep going towards the right. If the numbers are not enough, cannot be divided, you keep going to the right. And because if they didn't start it left enough, they squeeze it here, you realize that at the end they got no space. So multiplication will tend to expand to the left, long division extend to the right. And as a result, all the numbers are crammed together. And as a result, the computation, the working answer is incorrect. They come out to the solution is also incorrect. So the way to, later on when I realized this, I told them to do the other way around. I say, why not you do all your working first? Okay, after you do the working, everything, your answer, everything okay already, then you draw the line. So the teacher will know that this is working and this is solution. Okay, it's a simple observation, but we didn't realize it or the impact of it until we really go through every question together and why they are making such mistakes. Okay, the next few are basically failure to read the question properly. I mean, it's easy for us to say is that, oh, please read the question properly, but exactly what do they need to look out for? Okay, so first thing is units. You need to read the units properly. So for example, in this question, there are kilograms, there are apples, there are grams, and the answer is grams. Okay, so for example, this person has a metal container, weigh 1 kilo, put 10 apples inside, each apple 20 grams, ask you what is the total weight. So of course you know the weight of the apple, 10 times 20 is 200. Okay, and total weight, they simply just take 200 plus 1. Why? Because they see the word 1 here. So it's 201. And they say 201 happily because in the PSLE paper, the word gram is already there. So to the student, there's no unit and very happy they put 201. Actually, it's wrong because 1 kilogram is actually 1000 gram. So the answer should be 1200 gram. Okay, so ask them to identify the unit in the question. Okay, next. Okay, this is, I would say, it's a very, very wasted thing to lose marks because um, the child is able to do the question, in fact, get the correct answer despite how complicated the question is, but fail to convert the correct units in their answer. Why? Because they say, leave your answer in liters. So for example, in this question, your child solve all the difficult computation and says that, okay, each container contain, 10,130 milliliters, and they just write it as the answer. And this answer is wrong simply because the question says leave your answer in liters. So do get your child to highlight to say is that, okay, what the question asks, do I need to leave my answer in liters and all that. So after you get this thing, you need to do one more step, is to convert it to liters. Similar to the above, okay, this is usually for fraction. Okay, same thing, they say give your answer in the simplest form. So for this question, let's say it's a baker and so on, they use the tart and they ask you to find the fraction of tarts that are mango. So very easy. In this case, we see there's 3 unit over 9 unit, and you say 3 over 9, and happily you got the answer. But because they didn't read this part, give your answer in simplest form. As a result, same thing, the whole question is wrong. Why? Because never convert to 1/3. So if you notice, all this is the same pattern. They need to learn how to read the question properly. So it's nothing to do with knowledge gap. They know how to do it. It's just that because they didn't read the question properly or they didn't notice what is the required answer and so on. As a result, they are wasting marks out of it. Okay. So the other thing is failing to read the question properly is typical question of adding or removing items from the question. So for example, this is 830 blue and 130 whites after equal number that were added for both colors. Okay, so if it's added, so it means that initially 830 and 124 and you added the green part. Okay, it's very different if you think that it was 830 and 124 and you're trying to remove it. Okay, so it's very different. So the child needs to read the question properly. Is it added or removed? So ask them to highlight all these things in the question so that they know exactly what the question is all about. Okay, because if you look at it, the child basically know how to draw the model, the child basically know how to solve the question. Okay, same thing about reading question is at first and in the end. So the question will ask you a complex thing and say how many butter muffin were there at first. So you need to find the answer. For example, you solve the whole complex equation and you found that u is equal to 40. Okay, and the question asks you to find how many muffin were there at first. So butter muffin at first is actually this part. So it's actually 4u plus 35 times 4. Okay, so it should be 300. But if you didn't read the question properly and you start providing the answer of in the end, you just simply take 4u because all this has been given away, then the answer is 160. So same thing is a very complex question, but simply because you didn't highlight uh, what is required in the question. So usually I get my son to underline so that he know that towards the end what is the question that needs to be provided, or what is the answer that needs to be provided. Okay. One common mistake that sometimes even I myself will tend to make is that there is a difference between when the question says 3 over 5 kg or 3 over 5. Okay, because both are fraction, one with the unit and one without unit. So for example, Mrs. Goh has 10 kilogram of flour. She used 3 over 5 of them to bake a cake. How much flour did she have in the end? So if you use 3, you should be left with 2 parts. So 2/5 of 10 kilogram is 4 kilogram. Okay, but if you didn't read properly, you say 10 kg and use 3/5. So you just take 10 minus 3/5, it becomes 9.4 kg, which is wrong. This is a very, very common mistake, especially when you start the topic of remainder. Because 3/5 of the remainder or 3/5 of the thing, it is very different from 3/5 kg and 3/5 dollar and so on. Okay, that's where I come to the next one is the remainder. Okay, for this type of question, it's the same thing. He used 2/9 on Wednesday and 4/7 of the remainder. Okay, somehow the part of the remainder was always forgotten. They will see when they process the question, they will see 2/9, they will see 4/7. So they will draw it as they used 2/9 on Wednesday and 4/7 of the total on Thursday, and they try to add these two up and find what is the remainder. Actually, what the question was saying that he used 2 unit on Wednesday and 4 out of 7 unit of the remainder. So it should be 4 out of the 7 unit and not 4/7 of the total unit. Okay. So remember, if they see the word remainder, do remember to check whether is it 4/7 the remainder or 4/7 of the total, because the question sometimes can switch around a little bit depending on how they craft the question. Okay. The last two is more on geometry. I actually has a video call about triangle. You can go and look for it. There's a lot of things about triangle that you can learn about it. Okay, but the two most common mistake that I realized initially when my child learned about triangle was number one, they tends to use the wrong base, especially for obtuse triangle. So in this case, if you want to find the area of this triangle, the correct base to use is actually 6. But children being children, they always see that, okay, if this is the point, this is the height, this is the point, I draw the line down and I use the base of 13. Okay, it's a very common mistake that children will always make, and this is something that you need your child to be able to see and understand, and just keep reminding them, if you see this, don't go and use the point here, just use the short distance that is touching the line on the base. Okay. The next is, because of the way triangle is being drawn, is always drawn as a 90 degrees triangle that flip on one of the side. So it's always, this is the base, this is the height, or this is the base, this is the height. And to the children is that it's always, this is the base and this is the height. So the height must be one of the side. To them, the height is one of the side. Okay, so remember, for an area of triangle, the height is always perpendicular to the base. So in this case, this should be the height and not one of the side. So it's a mistake that the children will keep making. If you ask me, is it a knowledge gap? For this question, it's a bit yes and no, but actually it's more the failure to remember it. I would say failure to understand it. So it can be easily corrected if you keep reminding them. But no point telling them, please remember area of circle is half base times height, because it's not about the formula, it's about looking at where is the height. Okay, so this can be easily corrected. Okay, the last one that I'm going to talk about is the perimeter of a semicircle. Okay, this is a very typical question. They will give you a shape and they say, okay, can you find the parameters of a semicircle? The children will straight away jump into, perimeter of a circle is 2 pi r, so a perimeter of semicircle is half of 2 pi r. Pop, 22 centimeter. The answer is wrong. Reason is that the perimeter of this shape comprises of this line, the diameter of the circle. If what you are finding is only the circumference of half a circle, there is this line that is here that is always forgotten. So this line is 14 and end up is 36. So this is a perimeter of a semicircle. And all these mistakes are nothing to do with formula, nothing to do with concept, but it's just that it's a simple mistake that they always make. And to me, I always call this WMM and always tell my child, hey, you looked out for your WMM. And because I've been drilling them, they are able to identify the WMM, or things like looking at the unit, things like making sure that, you know, I see the word got remainder or no remainder, things that are my handwriting, when I, you know, do the working, I leave enough space, I don't cram everything together. So when I use the WMM to share with them, they don't feel hurt, and in fact, to them it's a basket of things that they need to look out for. I don't have to nag to say that, hey, have you checked your working? Hey, have you checked this? Hey, have you looked at the unit? Hey, which is along this. But to them, these are all the little things that will cause them to waste marks, and as a result, they will be aware of it. And in the exam, you know, I always, on the day of exam, I say, okay, you're very confident. All you need to do is just watch out for all your WMM. And they will tend to go to the exam, and they will tend to look out for such things that will cause them to lose marks. Okay, and if you take care of all these things, the chances is that even if you get back, you know, even if you have spotted 1 or 2 or 3 WMM, it can easily move you to a grade, especially if you are between AL3, AL4 to AL1, because every gap is only 5 marks different. Okay, so I hope this video is useful to you. I'm just doing it just to share my knowledge, and subsequently I will just focus on helping creating videos to solve the problem, unless I see something else that is appealing. Okay, thank you very much.